You knew I was going to go there with the verbiage too, girl. You knew it.
You could have used a bigger chainsaw.
Well, I mean, it spooked me because, I mean, you were stroking that thing, and I'm like, bitch, I hope that shit's not on, okay?
You're not doing enough. Like, you should be doing more. Like, who are you to rest?
Show up with a leash and some treats.
If I'd known, I would have never let you see me naked. Wait, that's a lie.
Thanks for the what? Thanks for the what?
I'm just gonna be who I am. And if people have a problem with that, we're all gonna die at some point. So,
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't. Hey, Emma, can you hear me?
yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am so excited.
Ew, it's so nice to see you again. I'm gonna update my name so it's right. I'm like, okay, cool, cool, cool.
Perfect. No, literally all morning I've been like, guess who's back? Back again. How's your day been?
It's been good. Let me close my doors because my dog might be a little freaked out. 1 second.
No worries.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good. Were those his treats?
Yeah, she definitely requires some convincing in order to get in her crate.
Oh, it's a she, that's right. Amazing.
No, Lily, she's a precious.
Your little soulmate, right? Like that's just all they are. They're just like our little soulmates with four legs.
No, and she's like been with me through everything. So I'm like, literally, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I outlive her. I'm like, I don't even want to think about it.
No, literally, it's a topic I avoid all the time here at home with my two poodles. I'm like, I don't even want to think about it because I don't know what's going to happen to me when that time comes. So don't want to go there.
Exactly. Cross that bridge later on.
Yes. Well, how have you been? I know it's been a while since we've talked. Well, not too long, but it's been a while, which I'm going to catch everyone up on some things. But how have you been?
I've been really good. I've been staying super duper busy. I feel like this year flew by faster than nearly any year I've ever lived. 2025 was definitely the blink of an eye, but it's been a year of awesomeness. Like I turned 30, I did a TED Talk. I'm like I'm still in remission. I'm like I can't complain. So
Yes, well, we're going to talk about that TED Talk here in a little bit, but I'm totally curious. Are you still going back and forth between Nashville and New York City to record?
yeah, so still kind of going back and forth between New York. I'm going to be back again in November, but definitely like over the summer, like after Pants Off came out, I had to like chill for a second and not travel because it did kind of catch up with me, like going back and forth all the time and just juggling it all. Like it's tough. It's tough to make it all work and just find that balance.
Do you find it difficult to take a break? Because I know for me, as just someone who's pursuing this show completely full time, it's all I do. I mean, I'm knocking out one to two, technically one full episode a week, but I have little quickie ones that I put out on YouTube on Thursday. So it's a constant go for me. And I have such a hard time slowing down because then you feel guilty, like I'm not, promoting myself. Do you struggle with that as well?
Literally, I had therapy earlier this afternoon and was talking about that exact thing, like giving myself permission to rest because that balance is essential to not burning out for me. And there have been times when I have burnout because I haven't allowed myself that rest. And she had this really good point about like how because whenever I took last week off from my day job and like to kind of just deregulate my nervous system and like I had this voice in the back of my head that whole time even though I knew I was doing the thing that was good for me by taking the rest that I needed. I had that voice saying, "You're not doing enough. Like you should be doing more. Like who are you to rest when you have like a to-do list like every person does." And she made this great point of like that voice is kind of always going to be there and like my responsibility is to recognize that voice and be like, I'm still going to do the things that I need to do to build the life that I need, which, involves doing the things that I say I'm going to do, but also taking the rest when I need it. And I feel like sometimes when I have that voice in the back of my head and I constantly push myself to go, 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 that like my brain's like broken or like I'm like, oh, I can't like allow myself to rest. But the reality is that that's a lot of people struggle with that, and it's just to different varying degrees of meanness that voice has. And like I can tell that I'm like reaching a fever pitch when that voice gets really mean and is trying to tell me that I can't rest. And like that's when I'm like, oh, I need to rest extra because like I can't even tell this voice to quiet down a little bit so I can go about my day.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I know for me personally, whenever I do listen to that voice and I do actually take a few steps back and I'm actually able to kind of catch my breath a little bit, I always come back so fucking energized and I am like sparked with so much creativity that I'm like, oh, I am so glad I did it. But I don't know if you can relate to that. So I feel like for me, I love being an advocate to listening to that voice. When you need to take a break, take a fucking break.
Yeah, it's really hard to push myself to do that sometimes, but like just from taking last week off, like I just have so much more gratitude now, like for myself and for like my day, like when I have things to do, I'm like, "Oh, I get to do this," instead of like, "Oh, like always being such a slog." Like it helps put things in perspective.
No, totally. And I want to jump back to the TED Talk real quick because I've actually been very curious about this. How did it come about and how did it go?
Yeah. Okay. So I have this friend, Athena Kolb, who is an incredible videographer and cinematographer, who put me in touch with the head of TEDx Nashville, because they were looking for speakers for their Women Wired event, which was all about, women empowerment. And I was honestly shocked when the TEDx president, his name's Jeremy, asked me to speak based on two of my songs that he'd heard. He listened to Try Hard and I Don't Hate It, It's Just Different. When Athena was kind of telling him about my story, about how Try Hard was inspired by my journey with cancer and how I was able to, that was able to inspire the EP about, transmuting shame into self-compassion. I had 4 weeks to prepare. And thankfully I had like a ton of help from Jeremy in like formulating the speech because we met at like the Soho House in Nashville, which I'd never been to and was kind of like, oh, this is like very fancy. And I like read through him, like, my story basically. And it was like sprawling and 4 pages long and not a TED talk yet, but we went back and forth with a couple drafts and really nailed down this idea of being a tryhard, was something that caused shame in my life. It's something that it made me feel like too much to some people and it hindered some of my relationships. But then through my cancer journey, I was able to love that piece of myself so much because being a tryhard is what allowed me to show up for myself through that and advocate for my needs in a medical, situation and also in a psychological situation within my relationships because I was really navigating so many new emotions, especially with, my appearance changing and being met with transphobia online, already going through like a really horrible thing. And it really reinforced my desire to advocate for trans rights because I really see how transphobia hurts all women because it reinforces the expectation that they always have to perform femininity despite whatever they might be going through. And, obviously, I think trans people should have rights because they're people and human beings, but to be affected specifically by transphobia as a woman was really, definitely reinforced the belief that transphobia hurts all women. So it was interesting, like how those all kind of tied together into this TED Talk. And I also performed like two of the songs from the EP during it. It was an incredible afternoon full of like wonderful speakers. And I was just happy to be involved in any way. And it'll be coming out on YouTube relatively soon. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I definitely can't wait to tune in and check it out. So you'll have to make sure you share it on your socials. But something that you said, it makes me feel so grateful to hear you talk about because that's a perspective that I never really thought about on how, transphobia really does affect women. And I think that this is the beauty of having open conversations like this is that you're able to see different perspectives. And at the end of the day, like you said, we're all just people. We're all just human beings. And I feel that a little bit of compassion and a little bit of understanding really does go a long way. So thank you so much for sharing that. And something I want to bring up real quick is you talked about going back and forth with the drafts of your speech. Did that by any chance help you with your writing, or did your writing and lyrics come into play with going back and forth with this? Because they're two different things, but they're both writing. Did those two have any correlation?
Definitely. It was really different writing a speech versus writing lyrics. And, like with lyrics, a lot of the time they say like show, don't tell, and there can be a lot of more metaphor. But this was really an incredible chance to like tell my story and incorporate it with the music and kind of like let the music speak for itself. And then also be able to, do this public speaking thing that I really hadn't done since college. It was a really great challenge to try and create a speech out of it versus like an art, like music out of it, because that does feel a lot more natural to me. I think I can like approach it with a little more like whatever comes out is authentic to me. Whereas like the public speaking, it did take a little more fine tuning. And Jeremy was really helpful with, like honing in on what a TED talk is, because like a TED talk is different from like a graduation speech and this, that, and the other thing. Like, you want to get to the point within the first 45-ish seconds, and like have that, like, this is what my TED talk is about, like this is the name of it on YouTube that's going to catch people's attention. So that was a little bit of like kind of like pushing myself to even fight past my own imposter syndrome of like knowing that there were going to be like master's educated doctors and, sex therapists, and, specialists that were speaking about, this incredible research that they'd been doing. And I was just like, this is literally just my experience as a human being and the music that was inspired by it. So it was really validating to kind of have that come to fruition. I was really glad to have that guidance throughout the process, because I definitely did have to push through some imposter syndrome because it was so different from writing music.
Was there anything during that process and having to put that hat on of writing something like a TED Talk speech versus lyrics that sparked interest in wanting to write about into future projects with music, if that makes any sense at all?
Yeah, no, it's definitely like opened up the possibility of doing more public speaking, and like even with my socials and like how I will speak about my music, it kind of empowered me to explain a little bit more of the story behind my songs on socials, which I found to be really helpful in like connecting with my audience and also in just articulating exactly what it means. And it's so interesting because I find like I write my own press releases typically, and I find that writing that with like the understanding of like I wrote the song, but now I'm like sharing it with other people, and I want to give the other people a chance to make it what it means to them, but also explain how I made it because that's interesting and that, helps people connect with it. And especially like in the first time when I met Jeremy, like hearing him talk about it and how Try Hard like had that line that was like, what a nightmare to be perceived, and how I had just lost my hair to cancer and that had taken like a whole new meaning after that. And just to kind of like even like see that reflected in him, like see his kind of understanding and be like, whoa, like that was what inspired that line. And like I was like, oh, this is really powerful. Like being able to like explain the story behind a song can make it resonate that much more with people, which I really love.
No, totally. And speaking of powerful, something that you cannot do without tapping into vulnerability is speaking about something like cancer and hair loss and how that affected your self-image and your self-esteem in general. How do you push through that? I mean, in regards to being vulnerable online, in your music, on this episode, on that TED Talk, really in just all different angles of everything that you're pursuing, how does Emma show up to do that?
So I really believe in somatic therapy. It's really helped me connect with myself and deal with some of the trials that I have faced. And one of the somatic practices is internal family systems, which is kind of like dissecting the different parts of myself throughout my life. And I find that when I was going through chemo and, that experience of being kind of faced with my own mortality really made it easier for me to push through that vulnerability and be like, I could die. So I'm just going to be who I am. And if people have a problem with that, we're all going to die at some point. So who cares? It made it easier to push through that vulnerability for me. And it's been interesting to see kind of like as I'm in remission now, thankfully, and like time has passed a little bit, I'm coming out of survival mode gradually and purposefully. But it has like, I will have to, when I, especially like putting out a song like Thanks for the Head, like it's like there is a lot of vulnerability in that. And I've had to reconnect with that part of myself that, was going through chemo and was like, you want to be an artist. And that means being your authentic self and being vulnerable. The other artists that you admire do this. So this is what's required. And I've thankfully gotten a lot of great like connection with myself and connection with other people through vulnerability. Having the external validation, while not shouldn't be necessary hypothetically, that has also been really great to hear the positive feedback. And it is a little bit of a humiliation ritual by design, but it's allowed me to accept myself in new ways. First and foremost, tapping in with a part of myself that is brave really helps, because there are parts of myself that are scared. There are voices in my head telling me it's too embarrassing, and I try and tap into the piece of myself that's like, this is what you want. You just got to be brave. So that really helps. And then also recognizing that I'm going to get something out of being vulnerable. Like I'm going to feel more comfortable with myself when I am authentic with it. And I see that the world doesn't explode, like I'm like, yeah, like this person broke up with me in a really crappy way and it was really embarrassing. And then everyone's like, oh yeah. And suddenly it doesn't feel like the gigantically insurmountable feeling that it felt like when I was carrying it all alone, So yeah, those are my 2 tips.
Well, I love the approach of we're all going to die anyway. I love that approach. And you're absolutely right. With that little reminder, that is how you do remind yourself to just push through, be vulnerable, be your authentic self, because at the end of the day, we're all going back to the dirt anyway. So you might as well do it. And we can't talk about being that bold without talking about this new song because something I journaled, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is the boldness of these lyrics. But before we jump into that, I want to do a segment with you because you know we have to do things in the Unshed way. And so, in honor of Thanks for the, we're going to fill in the blank. Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
The first one I have is thanks for the ass slap, okay? How do you slap yourself in the ass to get up and going when you don't want to?
Mm. I will oftentimes have this little voice in my head that's always like, bitch, if you don't do this shit, like it's always like, be so fucking for real right now. Like I definitely have like a really sassy voice in my head that will get my ass up and going. And when that doesn't work, I try and go in with the loving voice and be like, hey, this is gonna really help you. And even though it's hard, this is so it's like my first attack is that sassy voice. And then if that one doesn't work out, I try and come out with a loving, gentle parent.
Dude, I fucking love the sassy voice. I was trying so hard not to interrupt you and laugh because I have one too where I'm like, bitch, you got to do this. Let's go. It's that sassy hype voice that you need, but I love that you mentioned it because I have one too.
Yeah.
The second one I have for you is thanks for the wank. What is something you don't need anyone for? Something Emma can forever do alone.
Well, no.
You knew I was going to go there with the verbiage too, girl. You knew it.
I love it. No, definitely inner safety. And just like that was one thing that, going through some really hard things in my young adult life, just like recognizing that I can give myself safety and like I can always come back to myself and be okay. Even if I crave other people and other relationships, like I know I got myself and I'm safe with myself.
Dude, I am literally covered in goosebumps because I journaled about this with this question. Feeling safe, because without me feeling safe first for myself, I cannot make others feel safe. That is incredible. The last one I have for you is thanks for the foreplay. What's something non-sexual someone can do to get Emma in the mood?
Okay, this is so perfect. My dog. So before I go to bed, I always let my dog out. And if somebody is like sleeping over and they're like, oh, do you want me to take Lily out for you so you can just rest in bed and just like, what that I'm like, oh my God, pants off. Like it's literally like, and it's so funny because like obviously I love my dog and I love caring for her, but when someone else like cares for her and just, goes that extra mile without me even having to ask, that is everything to me.
That's right, you heard it here, folks. Show up with a leash and some treats, and it's gonna happen.
I love it.
Amazing. Well, something we have to talk about real quick is we did talk about the upcoming of this song on the last time we recorded, but I wanted to ask you, was there a title change? Did you take the head part out of the title to leave it kind of open-ended in that way? How did that come about? Because obviously I love the title change because it inspired that segment of fill in the blank, and I fucking love that. So genius move on your part. Kudos to you, but talk to me about that real quick.
Yeah, so I can't take full credit for it. It's funny because I literally mentioned this couple last time we were on as well. But yeah, I ran into some friends of mine, Belle Gray and Rosemary Joaquin, at an event hosted at Aura House in Nashville, which is a really awesome event space. And it was like a event specifically for queer and female musicians and writers in town. And there was an incredible panel. And afterwards, I was speaking with them about this song. And like, I was thinking about how Pants Off, like, I felt like it was very bombastic having my butt as the cover, So it was like, I was like, okay, how can I tone things down a little bit to make it so, people might come across this and not be like turned off by like the overt sexualness, but also like be able to kind of like make it their own and kind of still get people's attention. And Rosemary actually suggested doing just thanks for the, because I was like, could I call it head? Could I just call it, thanks for the head? Or would that be like too much? And I really loved how like the idea of thanks for the, allowed people to like fill in their own blank and like think of it that way and kind of like capture people's attention and be like, thanks for the what, But also, I think that the metaphor behind the song is like, I'm saying thanks for the head, but like, it's really like, that's definitely purposefully like an oversimplification of being like, you made me feel like I was nothing to you. So thanks for the head. But that's not really how I feel, like in the first verse, I'm like, I loved you, So like, there's so much more than the head that I have to say thanks for, and the thanks for the head was just just that initial reaction to being treated that way. But the reality is, I learned so much from that situation, even if it was a really upsetting situation.
Well, I have to tell you this just to toot your horn a little bit more. This is why I believe in just being in touch with your intuition and just going with your gut when you're pursuing your art. Because the way I interpreted that, Emma, was there's a little bit of a buildup in the title. Thanks for the what? Thanks for the what? Then you listen to it, but there's also a fucking buildup in the instrumental part of the song.
But it's always a risk to get let down like this pretty consistently. Can't help but see a pattern. The hard eyes when we kiss don't make up for this. If that's all I'm gonna get, thanks for the head.
I was like, man, if this was not intentional, this is just truly how it was meant to be. And this is how art just kind of takes its own form. And so I love that you went this route because I connected those just like that on my own. So just to toot your horn a little bit, but we have to talk about those lyrics real quick. Were you nervous it would be too bold?
Absolutely. Even just bringing it to the studio with the producers that I work with, Joey and Al, like it was definitely extremely vulnerable. And like this was one of those songs that it was absolutely like in the moment that like the moment that it happened, I wrote it and it was so visceral and so emotional. But I played it for a couple people and like I played it for one of my friends and she cried when I played it. And I was like, oh, this might actually tap into something. And I know that there are a lot of people who've been broken up with in the same way, you know? So like I was carrying all this shame about feeling like I was a terrible person for being treated this way. When in the reality was like, everybody was triggered. It's a high pressure situation, trying to advocate for yourself in relationships, especially when it's people you care about, but maybe you don't want to be in a forever relationship with. Those are really hard feelings to navigate and almost universal, like I don't know a single person who hasn't been through a breakup, So I feel like it felt so necessary for me to be vulnerable in that way because I felt like I wanted so badly for someone to be like, hey, this happened to me before and it really sucked and was super duper embarrassing, but you're not alone in this. And like, you're gonna get through it. And you're also still fucking powerful, even though someone treated you like that and made you feel like you were insignificant. So it felt really important for me to pull the thread. And with the idea of like transmuting shame into self-compassion, like, this was really an angry song. Like there was so much rage baked into it. And that was something that I really needed to feel to heal. Like I needed to allow myself to be authentic in that anger and that sadness and that grief. It was like I wanted to have it be out for other people to hopefully relate to and feel not alone in that situation. But like a lot of my art, it was definitely self-serving to release because I needed to actually like exorcise the demon that this was and that really is what it felt like. I was so sad and so hurt and angry at how I had been treated, and releasing this song and letting it be vulnerable and letting it be ugly and exactly what it is really helped me accept the reality of the situation and move forward.
That's my favorite part about it. It's that self-confrontation approach to this song. And something that has stuck with me since the last time we talked was in that episode we did, you hummed the beginning of Pants Off and how that's how that song was pretty much born.
The intro is what came to me first, that it's got like this kind of long intro and outro that's just this like button dun dun dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum.
How was this one born? I'm curious to tap into your brain about that.
Yeah, so the first line, the you called me from work, said long story short, I want to break up. That was exactly what happened. Like they called me, said long story short, I want to break up.
Wow.
like, wow, that's really shitty. So like that was like I had that and like it was just like a simple chord progression and I was like, this is exactly what happened, and like just like couldn't do anything but just say what happened because I was so upset about it. But then that line in the chorus, that's my favorite line. One of my favorite lines in the song is the heart eyes when we kiss, don't make up for this if that's all I'm gonna get, was that like realization that like I do kind of like trauma bond with these people. I have a history of, kind of trauma bonding with these people that I have this huge connection with and, can kind of be like, oh my God, like romanticize them despite their actual capacity or, the reality of the situation. So recognizing that like, like even if I felt that love for that person and that, infatuation with that person, it's not worth the hurt and the pain that their actions caused me. So just like to kind of recognize that. And also in the bridge, to the line that's like, if I'd known, I would have never let you see me naked. Wait, that's a lie. Like also like recognizing like if I'd known from jump that you were going to treat me like this, like I probably still wouldn't have not done it, like and that was a part of like being so for real with myself was like even though this was an ultimately like really crappy experience, I can still make something of it and recognize that like it's not that this person is necessarily like a horrible person. They're just an imperfect person. And I just wish that they would have been more considerate of my emotions and the way that they spoke. So it helped validate my own anger too, because anger is one of my least favorite emotions to feel. I will avoid it when I can. And that's why, again, like I felt so impassioned about releasing this song, because if I didn't release this song, I would just suppress the anger and I wouldn't have been able to heal it, but I was like, no, I'm going to let myself be seen in this and speak my truth. And it's going to help me clear this rage. And it did.
Is the rage where the visuals come into play?
Definitely. My roommate, Sarah Free, incredible photographer and visionary and producer, songwriter in her own right too. At first I had this idea of like some kind of guillotine kind of thing. Because I was like, what if I like built a guillotine in my backyard and like had it be like also a commentary on like capitalism right now? But then I was like, all right, it might be a little too ambitious to like get the woodworking out and like think that I can do that. So I was like wanting it to be a Halloween release because it felt like kind of moody and spooky. And then I thought of like, I was like looking on Facebook Marketplace and saw a chainsaw. And I was like, well, maybe this could work, like just like to show that kind of like you hurt me. So now I'm like on the defensive, and like I'm angry and now I'm going to bite back a little bit because you just treated me like this. I felt like it really kind of tapped into that like Scream Queen mentality. And also like just filming the visuals, like it was so fun to really tap into how I really felt when I wrote this song, and definitely like allowing myself to be a little feral with the marketing of it and the visuals of it helped me move through that emotion too.
Well, I mean, it spooked me because I mean, you were stroking that thing, and I'm like, bitch, I hope that shit's not on, okay?
Oh yeah, no. And it's so funny too, because like people that actually like work with chainsaws and stuff, they're like, this little itty bitty electric chainsaw. And I was like, this is like a real chainsaw to me. Like, like I didn't realize there's like levels to this. But yeah, it was funny to get some feedback. Like, you could have used a bigger chainsaw. I'm like, okay, I will next time.
Dude, that is fucking iconic. The vibe it gave me was like the Heathers, like the whole fuck me with a chainsaw thing. But what I loved about it is that it was so iconic because it's like, man, it's almost to me, the way I interpret it was it's kind of like love almost sometimes hurts like getting fucked with a chainsaw. So it's really fucking clever and it's why I'm stupidly obsessed with it. But I'm really glad you went the chainsaw route for sure because that vibe right there is just so iconic. So I love it.
That movie was so good. It's such a cult classic. I remember the first time I watched that movie, I was like so shook. I was like, this is so messed up, but also like I can't look away. So yeah, that was definitely the vibe I was going for, like something like freaky, but that you couldn't look away from.
Yes. And now is that video also going to be coming out with the same release of the song, which by the way, I feel so honored to have been able to heard the song before it came out. I love it so much. And so thank you so much for entrusting me with it because I could have leaked that shit ASAP because I am that obsessed with it. But I did it, Emma. I did it.
No, I'm so glad. And honestly, like I just loved being on your podcast last time. So I was like, this is gonna be the perfect way to reveal this song. Yeah, the music video is in the process. It should come out like within the next week or so. It's just being all pieced together now. Yeah, it's definitely is a little crazy, but I love it. It's like think like strobe lights and a little bit of like white trash vibe with my my little Ashland City backyard. I love it.
Well, I feel like the way you just explained that, it makes me think of like taking power back, dude. And I feel like even with that line that you were talking about a minute ago, about how saying like, you wish they wouldn't have seen you naked, just kidding, it probably still would have happened. That whole energy is so fucking spot on because that is a way to take your power back. It's almost kind of like saying like, no, actually, I got something out of it too, bitch. Like, you know what I mean? There's a bit of a grit to that. And so I love how it's all piecing together for you 100%. If you couldn't tell, I'm geeking out.
You're so sweet. It did feel so powerful to be honest with myself and to really step out of any kind of victim mentality about it, because that, like, along with anger, especially after, on the heels of a cancer diagnosis, I didn't want to feel not powerful. I didn't want to feel like I wasn't, in charge of my own ship. And I feel like just being 100% with that and being like, even though you hurt me, like I did, yeah, I had fun. But like I can have that can be the truth and also like recognize that I deserve more and, more emotional care. So it felt really empowering to be authentic in that and just like let it be what it is. Even if it's not perfect cookie cutter, like explaining this to my parents has been interesting to say the least, but they're really supportive and it means so much to me to be accepted in it and also just to like find my people, like I feel like it's like whenever I speak with somebody who's heard the song and it resonates with them, I'm like, you get it. Like some people, sure, they're not going to get it and be like, this is weird, but it's for the people who get it. So,
Dude, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. It's meant to be for those who get it, and for those who don't, that's fine. I'm definitely dying at your comment about your parents because I'm like, I wonder what they thought. Were they like head? Like, did they gift you a bobblehead you didn't want or something? Like, I fucking love it. But you know what, Emma? Without having that bit of, double take type of approach to music and writing, you'll never be able to really captivate the people that it's meant to captivate. And so I love that you're being bold and I love that you're taking these risks with your writing and your music. I love everything about it.
thank you. Yeah, it feels really good. It feels good to be authentic and to be real and to be brave.
100%. What is next? I mean, last time we foreshadowed this song and everything else coming out. I know I don't want to make you feel like as an artist, you're pressured to keep pumping shit out, but I'm just truly curious. What's next? I mean, you killed this TED Talk. You're doing things with more music. What's next?
Yeah, so the EP is coming out. Ashamed to admit this. There's two more songs that are going to be on the EP. I'm still figuring out if I want it to come out at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. I'm kind of like getting all my ducks in a row for that, but definitely have two more songs from that body of work that's really all about like, this transmuting shame into self-compassion and moving through that cancer-inspired journey. And then I am already have like some songs that I'm getting back in the studio with to go after that. So even though like, there is definitely some of like okay, you don't have to churn all the time, but there's also such a healing aspect to, writing this music and keeping it moving. There's a really good book by that woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and I'm blanking on it, but she had this one chapter about like how like with ideas, like if you don't chase after them and like let them be what they need to be and like get them out and share them with the world, they can get stale. And that's definitely something that I've recognized in my music. And there are times when I've waited too long and things have fallen by the wayside. This EP coming out, and I've been so inspired to write more. So I definitely feel like I just want to get all this stuff recorded as well. It's interesting because the stuff that I'm writing now, it does feel like I'm like peeling the layers away from the onion a little bit. Definitely like with Ashamed to Admit This, there was a lot of being honest with myself and recognizing, being radically accepting of my own like attachment issues and missing people that maybe I wish I didn't miss, and acknowledging things about myself that maybe not everybody loves, but I need to love if I'm going to love myself. And I feel like it's freed me up to really dive even deeper into my own understanding of myself. And I definitely have such a deep craving for love all the time and to be understood. That's definitely something that I just want so badly. And I feel like it's healthier for me to search for that through connection with people in my music than it is to search for that in relationships, because that feels like, yeah, just like, like searching for somebody to save me. But it's like my art can really help me get to know myself better and heal some of these things. So I'll be better equipped to go after what I want at a later date. So feels like a worthy pursuit.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, this is your form form of self-love, is being able to put these projects out. And without that self-love, you can't attract that love. So you know what, Emma? None of that stale bullshit. All right, keep them coming. Keep peeling the onions back because we love it. I know I love it. And I am going to just say this on record. We're not doing this a third time. We're doing it in fucking person, okay? Can't keep showing up like this for one another via screen, okay?
I love that idea. That sounds great.
Amazing. Well, lastly, Emma, please tell everyone where to find you, where to find your music, and also why they should stream this new song.
Okay, so you can find all my music. It's Emma Driver Music on most social platforms, within just Emma Driver on all streaming platforms. And you should listen if you feel like there's something that you have shame about, that you're embarrassed about, but you're trying to push through and accept yourself in it. I think that my music is really a safe space to feel all the embarrassing emotions and allow yourself to feel that authentically and admit to yourself that you feel that way, because sometimes that's the first step, is like, you know, calling yourself on your own bullshit. So I feel like it's really good for that. And especially this song is good to thrash out and get out some rage. It's really a good one to scream with me.
Hell yeah, get the chainsaws out, baby.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for giving me your time again. I love having you on. And like I said, I can't wait to get to do this with you in person, and we'll be able to celebrate more music. I'm definitely going to manifest that with you next year with more music coming out. We'll definitely have to figure out a way to do this in person. So thank you so much, Emma. It's been a pleasure once again.
Of course, always such a pleasure. I love you.
I love you too, and I love everything you're doing. So keep them coming, keep doing you, keep showing up as Emma Driver, because we love who you are. We'll definitely be in touch because this bitch is not going anywhere. So
Hell no. I love it.
that's right. We'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.